The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the empty space between star systems. It was built to be neutral ground where different alien races could meet safely. The station had 12 docking bays, one for each member of the Galactic Council. Today, all 12 bays were full. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked down the long hallway toward the council chamber. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. She wore the dark blue uniform of the Terran Empire with its golden eagle badge on her chest. Other aliens moved past her, but none looked at her directly. Some whispered to each other when they thought she could not hear. The council chamber was a huge round room with seats arranged in a circle. Each seat was designed for a different alien species. The Zephyrians had tall chairs for their long necks. The Karathi needed low, wide seats for their thick bodies. The insect-like Vexhi had special perches. At the center of the circle was a single chair made for humans. Sarah took her seat and looked around the room. 12 pairs of alien eyes stared back at her. Some had multiple eyes, others had none at all, but she could feel their attention like a weight pressing down on her. Chancellor Vextai of the Zephyrians stood up slowly. He was the leader of the Galactic Council and looked like a tall, thin bird with blue feathers and golden eyes. When he spoke, his voice was high and musical, but there was no kindness in it. "Ambassador Chen," he said, "we have called you here today to discuss a matter of great importance. The human expansion across the galaxy has become a problem." Sarah kept her face calm, but inside she felt anger starting to build. "What kind of problem, Chancellor?" "Your species has spread to over 300 worlds in just 200 years, said Admiral Corax of the Hegemony. He was a massive creature that looked like a walking tank with 4 arms. "No species has ever expanded so quickly. It is dangerous." "Dangerous to whom?" Sarah asked. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with glowing spots spoke next. This was Counselor Weiss of the Ethereal Collective. "Dangerous to the order we have built over thousands of years. Your people do not respect the old ways. You colonize worlds without asking permission. You trade with forbidden technologies. You refuse to follow our laws." Sarah stood up from her chair. "We follow our own laws, the ones we made for ourselves." The room filled with angry sounds. Some aliens hissed, others made clicking noises. Chancellor Vexithai raised one long arm for silence. "This is exactly what we mean," he said. "Your arrogance knows no bounds. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council has kept peace among the stars. We have rules that all civilized species must follow. You humans think you are above these rules. We never agreed to your rules," Sarah said firmly. "When humanity first reached the stars, no one asked us to join your council. No one explained your laws to us. You just expected us to obey." Counselor Zekmore of the Crystal Dominion spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "Ignorance is not an excuse. Every species learns to respect their betters." "Betters?" Sarah felt her anger growing stronger. "You think you are better than us?" "We know we are," said Chancellor Vextai. "We have ruled the galaxy since before your species discovered fire. We have technologies your primitive minds cannot understand. We have wisdom earned across millennia." Sarah looked around the room again. These aliens had been in power for so long that they could not imagine anything else. They saw humans as children who needed to be controlled. "What do you want from us?" she asked. Chancellor Vexthai smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "We are prepared to be generous. We understand that your species is young and foolish. Therefore, we offer you this chance to correct your mistakes." He pressed a button on his chair, and a holographic document appeared in the air above the center of the room. The text was written in 12 different alien languages with human English at the bottom. "These are our terms," the Chancellor said. "First, humanity will withdraw from all colonies beyond your home system of Sol within 30 standard days. Second, all human military forces will be disbanded except for a small defense fleet around Earth. Third, the Terran Empire will accept status as a protected species under Council oversight." Sarah read the document carefully. It was not a treaty or an agreement. It was a surrender demand. "And if we refuse?" she asked. The Chancellor's smile grew wider. "Then we will be forced to take action to protect galactic stability. Your expansion ends either way, Ambassador. The only question is whether it ends peacefully or through force." "This is not a negotiation," Sarah said. "This is an ultimatum." "Yes," said Admiral Corax simply. "It is." Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Every human colony, every space station, every ship in the Terran fleet, all of it was being threatened by these ancient aliens who thought they owned the galaxy. "I need to discuss this with my government," she said. "Of course." Chancellor Vexthai said. You have 30 days to comply. Use them wisely. Sarah turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear the aliens talking among themselves. They sounded pleased, like adults who had just told a child to clean their room. As she reached the door, Chancellor Vexthai called out one last time. Ambassador Chen! I hope your leaders are wiser than you appear to be. The Council has been patient with humanity for far too long. That patience is now at an end. Sarah did not turn around. She walked out of the chamber and down the long hallway to her ship. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. She was angry, angrier than she had ever been in her life. The aliens thought humans were primitive and weak. They thought humanity would surrender without a fight. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, and they could not imagine that their time might be coming to an end. As her ship left Nexus Prime and jumped into hyperspace toward Earth, Sarah began composing her report. She would tell Emperor Cain exactly what the Council had said and how they had said it. She would describe their arrogance, their contempt, and their complete confidence that humanity would obey. The Council thought they knew everything about humans. Sarah smiled grimly as she typed. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In 30 days, the galaxy would discover what happened when someone threatened the Terran Empire. The Council expected surrender, but they were going to get something very different. They were going to get war. Emperor Marcus Aurelius Cain stood in the war room deep inside the Imperial Palace on Earth. The room was carved from solid rock beneath the surface, protected by layers of armor and energy shields. Holographic displays filled the air around him, showing star maps, fleet positions, and communication channels to every human colony in the galaxy. Cain was not a tall man, but his presence filled the room. His gray hair was cut short in military style, and his dark eyes missed nothing. He had served as a soldier before becoming emperor, and he still moved like a fighter ready for battle. Show me the recording again, he said quietly. The main display switched to show Ambassador Chen's meeting with the Galactic Council. Cain watched Chancellor Vexthai deliver the ultimatum. He saw the arrogance in the alien's golden eyes, heard the contempt in his musical voice. Around the room, Cain's advisors watched in silence. Admiral Rebecca Torres, commander of the Terran fleet, stood with her arms crossed and her jaw clenched. General Liu Zhao, head of colonial defense, shook his head in disgust. Director Sarah Park from Imperial Intelligence took notes on her tablet. When the recording ended, Cain turned to face his advisors. Opinions? Admiral Torres spoke first. They're trying to cage us, sir. 30 days to abandon 300 colonies? Impossible even if we wanted to do it. Which we don't, added General Zhao. My people didn't cross the galaxy to build homes just so some alien council could tell them to leave. Director Park looked up from her tablet. The intelligence is interesting, sir. They genuinely believe we'll surrender. Their body language, tone of voice, they think this is already over. Cain nodded slowly. What do we know about their military capabilities? Admiral Torres activated a new display showing alien fleet compositions. The Council can field approximately 50,000 warships if they combine their forces. Our intelligence suggests their technology is advanced but very old. They haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. And our forces? Cain asked. 12,000 frontline warships, sir, plus another 8,000 colonial defense ships and support vessels. We're outnumbered 2 to 1 if they bring everything. Cain smiled coldly. Numbers aren't everything, Admiral. What else? Director Park cleared her throat. Sir, the Council made a critical mistake. They assumed we would react like other species they've encountered. Most aliens who face this ultimatum in the past either surrendered immediately or fought briefly before giving up. Humans are not most aliens, Cain said. Exactly, sir. They don't understand our psychology. They think showing overwhelming force will make us submit. They don't realize it will make us fight harder. Cain activated the quantum entanglement communication system. Instantly, the faces of colonial governors and military commanders appeared on screens around the room. Men and women from 300 worlds looked at their emperor and waited for his words. Citizens of the Terran Empire, Cain began, his voice carrying to every human settlement in the galaxy. By now you have all heard about the Council's ultimatum. They demand that we abandon our homes, dissolve our military, and accept their rule. Angry voices erupted from the screens. Governor Martinez from New Texas shouted, "We didn't fight pirates and hostile aliens for 20 years just to hand our world over to some bird-faced bureaucrat." Admiral Chen from the Outer Rim added, "My fleet stands ready, sir. We've been preparing for this day since we first encountered the Council." Commander Walsh from the mining colonies was more direct. "Tell us where to aim the guns, Your Majesty." Kane raised his hand for silence. When the voices died down, he continued speaking. "The Galactic Council believes they can intimidate us because they are old and we are young. They think their ancient wisdom gives them the right to rule over humanity. They are wrong." Kane's voice grew stronger, carrying the full weight of his authority. "We are not their children to be managed, nor their pets to be caged. We are human. We explored unknown space when they said it was impossible. We built colonies on worlds they called uninhabitable. We survived attacks by aliens who wanted to destroy us completely." The Emperor paused and looked directly into the main camera. "The Council has existed for 3,000 years, but their time is ending. They have grown weak and comfortable in their power. They have forgotten what it means to fight for survival. We have not." Kane activated another display showing fleet positions throughout human space. "Admiral Torres, give me a full status report." "All fleets are at maximum readiness, sir. The defense platforms around major colonies are online. Our deep space monitoring stations are tracking all Council movements. Director Park, what about our special projects?" "Project Damocles is fully operational, sir. Our assets are in position throughout Council space. Project Prometheus is ready for activation on your command." Kane nodded. "General Zhao, Colonial, defense status? Every human world is prepared for siege, sir. We've been stockpiling supplies and weapons for 50 years. The Council thinks we're primitive, but our production capacity exceeds theirs by a factor of 3. Kane turned back to the quantum communication system. 300 faces waited for his decision. "Citizens of the Empire," he said, "the Council has given us a choice. We can surrender our freedom and live as their subjects, or we can fight for the right to determine our own destiny. The choice is clear." Governor Kim from New Seoul spoke up. "What are your orders, sir?" Kane's expression hardened. "We reject their ultimatum completely. Not 1 inch of human territory will be surrendered. Not one human will accept alien rule. If the Council wants our worlds, they can come and take them." The response was immediate and unanimous. Cheers erupted from colonial governors, military commanders, and civilian leaders across the galaxy. These people had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. They would not give up those lives without a fight. Kane continued his address. "The Council expects us to be afraid of their superior numbers and ancient technology. They think we will calculate the odds and surrender to avoid destruction. They do not understand us at all." He paused and smiled grimly. "Humans do not surrender. When we are outnumbered, we find ways to even the odds. When we face superior technology, we innovate and adapt. When threatened with destruction, we become more dangerous, not less." Admiral Torres stepped forward. "Your Majesty, should we begin mobilization?" "Admiral, we began mobilizing 50 years ago when we first encountered the Council. Today we simply stop hiding our preparations." Kane turned to Director Park. "Activate all intelligence networks. I want to know every Council ship movement, every communication, every strategic discussion. Let them see what human intelligence gathering really looks like." "Already in progress, sir. Our agents have been embedded in Council space for decades. They never suspected that human traders and diplomats were actually gathering military intelligence." Kane faced the communication system one final time. "To every human in the galaxy, the Council thinks they can break our spirit with threats and ultimatums. They believe their ancient empire gives them the right to rule over younger species. Today we prove them wrong." He raised his right hand, and every person on every screen did the same. "We are the Terran Empire. We bow to no alien council. We serve no foreign masters. We are human, and that means we are free." Kane lowered his hand and the communication ended. The war room fell silent as his advisors absorbed what had just happened. The Emperor had not just rejected the Council's ultimatum. He had declared, We're on the oldest and most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Sir, Admiral Torres said quietly, they'll monitor our communications. They'll know about this meeting within hours. Kane smiled. Good. Let them hear every word. Let them understand that we are not afraid of them. What if they attack immediately? Asked General Zhao. Then they'll discover what happens when someone threatens human colonies, Kane replied. Director Park, send a message to Ambassador Chen. Tell her to inform the Council that the Terran Empire's answer is no. Should I include any diplomatic language, sir? Kane's smile grew colder. Tell them exactly what I said. We are not their children to be managed, nor their pets to be caged. We are human. As his advisors left to carry out their orders, Kane remained alone in the war room. The holographic displays showed human ships moving throughout the galaxy, taking positions for the coming conflict. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would surrender at the first sign of superior force. They were about to learn the truth about humanity. Humans did not surrender. They fought, and when they fought, they won. Admiral Zektor of the Hegemony 4th Fleet watched the tactical display with growing concern. What should have been a simple demonstration of power was turning into a real battle, and his ships were taking heavy losses. Sir, his communications officer reported, the humans are not responding to our surrender demands. They continue to fight with full intensity. Sektor's forearms moved across his command console, checking fleet status reports. The massive alien looked like a walking tank covered in thick armor plating, but his face showed uncertainty. How is this possible? He muttered. Intelligence said the human colonies would surrender after the first bombardment. The battle had started exactly as planned. The Galactic Council had assembled the largest fleet in 1,000 years, 50,000 warships representing all 12 member species. They had chosen to attack Kepler Prime, one of humanity's most important colony worlds, expecting its fall to break human resistance. The plan was simple. Jump into the system, destroy a few military targets, and demand surrender. The humans would see the overwhelming force arrayed against them and give up immediately. The Council would then move to the next system and repeat the process until all human colonies were under their control. But nothing had gone according to plan. Captain Voss of the Zephyrian cruiser Windcaller had led the first wave of attacks. His ship was one of the most advanced in the Council fleet, with energy shields that could stop any known weapon and particle cannons that could crack a planet's crust. When the human defense platforms opened fire, Voss had laughed. The projectiles looked primitive, simple metal slugs fired by magnetic acceleration. His shields would stop them easily. The first impact had torn his ship in half. What was that? Voss had screamed into his communicator before his ship exploded. His final transmission was cut off as the Windcaller broke apart, its crew of 300 aliens dying instantly. Admiral Zektor had watched in shock as more Council ships fell to the human weapons. The projectiles were not simple metal slugs at all. They were sophisticated kinetic rounds that somehow penetrated energy shields and tore through the strongest armor. Analysis report, he demanded. His science officer, a floating creature covered in tentacles, consulted her instruments. Sir, the human projectiles appear to use some kind of phasing technology. They exist in normal space until they hit our shields, then briefly shift to another dimension to pass through, then shift back to normal space inside our hulls. That's impossible, Zektor said. Dimensional phasing requires massive amounts of energy. No projectile could carry that much power. Nevertheless, sir, that appears to be what they're doing. And there's something else. The human ships are using AI systems to coordinate their point defense. Our missiles can't get through. Zektor looked at the tactical display again. The human fleet was much smaller than expected. Only 2,000 ships defending the Kepler system. But they were fighting with a precision and coordination that seemed impossible. Every human ship moved in perfect harmony with every other ship. When Council missiles approached, the entire human fleet would shift position slightly, creating overlapping fields of defensive fire that destroyed every incoming projectile. It's like fighting a single organism with 2,000 bodies, his tactical officer reported. They respond to threats instantly, with no communication delay. The battle had been raging for 6 hours now, and the Council fleet had lost over 3,000 ships. The humans had lost less than 100. Sir, the communications officer said urgently. "We're receiving a transmission from the human commander." "Put it on screen." The display showed the bridge of a human warship. A woman in a dark blue uniform looked directly at Admiral Zektor with calm, steady eyes. Her name tag read Chen, and her rank insignia showed she was an admiral. "I am Admiral Lisa Chen of the Terran Third Fleet," she said. "I wanted to thank you for the target practice. My crews needed the training." Zektor's translator struggled with the human words, but the meaning was clear. She was mocking him. "Human," he growled. "You are outnumbered 20 to 1. Surrender now and your colony will be spared." Admiral Chen smiled. "You're not outnumbered 20 to 1, Admiral. You're just fighting the wrong battle." Before Zektor could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding throughout his flagship. His sensor officer shouted in panic, "Sir! New contacts appearing throughout the system. Human ships decloaking." The tactical display exploded with new red markers. Hundreds, then thousands of human ships appeared from seemingly empty space. They had been hiding there all along, invisible to Council sensors. "Stealth technology," Zektor whispered. "But our sensors can detect anything." "Not anything," Admiral Chen said from the screen. "Your sensors are designed to detect energy signatures and metal compositions that alien ships use. Human ships are built differently." The newly revealed human fleet opened fire simultaneously. Kinetic rounds and energy beams struck Council ships from every direction. The carefully planned formation collapsed as alien commanders tried to respond to attacks coming from all sides. "How many ships do they have?" Zektor demanded. "I count over 4,000 human vessels in this system, sir. That's twice what intelligence predicted for their entire local defense force." Admiral Chen was still smiling on the screen. "Intelligence is important in war, Admiral. For 50 years, we've been letting you see exactly what we wanted you to see. Small fleets, primitive technology, scattered defenses. You never suspected that we were building a real military." Zektor watched helplessly as more Council ships died. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. "This is impossible," he said. "Your species is only 200 years old. How can you have technology we don't understand?" "Because we invent instead of inherit," Admiral Chen replied. "Your people have been using the same technology for thousands of years. You stopped innovating because you thought you were already perfect. We never stopped learning." A massive explosion lit up the tactical display as a Karathi dreadnought broke apart under human fire. The ship had been 3 kilometers long and carried a crew of 50,000 aliens. Now it was debris floating in space. "Sir," Zektor's communications officer said, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 ship captains. They're asking permission to withdraw from the battle." Zektor felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Fear. Not fear of death. He was a warrior and understood that risk. This was fear of the unknown. Fear of facing an enemy that fought in ways he could not predict or understand. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Full retreat. All ships withdraw to hyperspace immediately." "Sir, the Council ordered us to take this system." "The Council doesn't understand what we're facing here," Zektor replied. "Look at the tactical display. We came here with 50,000 ships to crush a primitive human colony. We're losing to a force that shouldn't exist." As Council ships began jumping to hyperspace, Admiral Chen's image remained on the screen. "Admiral Zektor," she said, "I want you to deliver a message to your Council. Tell them this was just one human colony. We have 300 more and they're all defended just as well as this one." The alien admiral stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your Council picked a fight with the wrong species. You thought humans were weak because we're young. You thought we would surrender because you have bigger numbers. You were wrong on both counts." Zektor's flagship was one of the last Council ships to escape the Kepler system. As they jumped to hyperspace, he looked back at the tactical display one final time. The human fleet was already regrouping, preparing for the next attack. In the space around Kepler Prime, the wreckage of 3,000 Council ships floated in the darkness. Each piece of debris represented dozens or hundreds of alien lives lost to human, weapons that shouldn't have existed. Admiral Chen's final words echoed in Zektor's mind as his ship fled toward Council space. "Tell your Council that humans don't surrender, we fight, and when we fight, we win." The great demonstration of Council power had become a disaster. Instead of showing human colonies that resistance was hopeless, they had shown the galaxy that the Council could be defeated. For the first time in 3,000 years, the ancient alliance was retreating from a battle And the species that had defeated them was barely 2 centuries old. Admiral Zektor knew that everything had changed. The Council would never admit it publicly, but they were no longer the undisputed masters of the galaxy. That title now belonged to humanity. Chancellor Vexthai stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his blue feathers ruffled with anger and confusion. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 12 alien species argued loudly about the disaster at Kepler Prime. 50,000 ships, roared Admiral Corex, his 4 massive arms waving in fury. We sent 50,000 ships against a single human colony and lost 3,000 of them. Councillor Weiss floated near the ceiling, her jellyfish-like body pulsing with agitated colors. The intelligence reports were completely wrong. The humans have technology we've never seen before. Technology that defeats our shields, added Councillor Zekmore, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights in angry patterns. How is that possible? Chancellor Vexthai raised his arms for silence. When the chamber quieted, he spoke in his high musical voice. Admiral Zektor has provided a full report on the battle. The humans used dimensional phasing weapons, advanced stealth systems, and artificial intelligence coordination. Our analysts are studying the data to understand how they developed such capabilities. That's not the important question, interrupted General Thax of the Reptilian Confederacy. The question is what we do next. The other species in the galaxy are watching. If word spreads that humans defeated a council fleet, our authority will be challenged everywhere. The Chancellor nodded grimly, which is why we must crush them quickly and completely. We will assemble a larger fleet, 100,000 ships. We will attack multiple human colonies simultaneously. They cannot defend everywhere at once. Unknown to the council members, their emergency session was being watched. Hidden cameras and listening devices planted by human intelligence operatives over the past 50 years transmitted every word back to Earth. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Kane watched the council debate with Director Park and Admiral Torres. The 3 humans listened as their enemies planned the next phase of the war. They still don't understand, Kane said quietly. They think this is about superior numbers and technology. Director Park smiled coldly. Sir, should we show them what Project Damocles can do? Not yet, Kane replied. Let them commit more forces first. The deeper they dig themselves into this hole, the worse their fall will be. What about Project Prometheus? Asked Admiral Torres. Our stellar engineering teams have been ready for months. Kane considered this. Begin preparations, but don't activate yet. I want to see how far the Council is willing to go. 3 days later, the Council launched their second offensive. 100,000 warships attacked 20 human colonies simultaneously. The aliens expected to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers and coordination. They were wrong again. The human colonies were ready. Each world had defense platforms that emerged from underground bunkers and ocean floors. Massive railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Energy shields that the Council had never seen before protected critical installations, but the real surprise came when the human fleets counterattacked. Admiral Voskar of the Ethereal Collective was commanding the assault on New Mumbai when his sensor officer detected something impossible. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system, but there are no ships there. Explain, Voskar demanded. The signatures are coming from empty space, sir. It's as if weapons platforms are firing from locations where nothing exists. Before the Admiral could respond, kinetic rounds began striking his ships from invisible sources. Council vessels exploded as projectiles appeared from apparently empty space and tore through their hulls. Cloaked platforms, Voskar realized. The humans have hidden weapon platforms throughout the system. But it was worse than that. As the battle continued, more human ships decloaked throughout Council space. Not just in the systems under attack, but in the home systems of Council member species. On the hegemony homeworld, Admiral Corex received an urgent communication from his defense forces. Sir, we have human warships in our system. They appeared from nowhere. How many? Corex demanded. Hundreds, sir. They're surrounding our orbital stations and shipyards. Corex felt his 4 hearts skip beats. That's impossible. Our homeworld is 50 light years from the nearest human colony. Nevertheless, sir, they're here, and they're sending a message. The message was simple and direct. It came from Admiral Rebecca Torres of the Terran fleet, speaking from the bridge of the battleship Unconquerable. Admiral Corex, she said, I wanted you to know that Earth remembers every insult your people have given us. Every time you called us primitive. Every time you demanded we submit to your authority. We remember all of it. Korik stared at the human woman on his screen. She looked calm and confident, as if having her fleet appear in the heart of Council space was perfectly normal. How did you get ships here? He asked. We've been placing assets throughout Council space for 50 years, Admiral Torres replied. Every human trader, diplomat, and tourist who visited your worlds was also a scout. They identified key strategic locations and transmitted coordinates back to Earth. But our sensors would have detected any human ships. Torres smiled. Your sensors detect what they're designed to detect. Human ships use different technologies, different materials, different energy signatures. We might as well be invisible to your equipment. Similar scenes were playing out across Council space. Human fleets had appeared near every major alien world, every important shipyard, every strategic installation. The Council's own territory was suddenly full of enemy forces. In the emergency Council session, Chancellor Vextai received reports from all 12 member species. Every one of them had human ships in their home systems. This is impossible, he repeated for the 10th time. No species could hide fleets of this size for decades. Director Xeris of the Machine Collective, a being that looked like a walking computer, provided the analysis that chilled every council member. Based on the number of human ships that have revealed themselves, I calculate they have been building a fleet of at least 20,000 vessels, while allowing us to believe they had only 4,000. Additionally, they have been constructing mobile weapons platforms and deploying them throughout our space. 20,000 ships? Counselor Weiss asked in shock. How is that possible? Our intelligence said they had limited industrial capacity. Our intelligence was wrong, Director Xeris replied. The humans have been deliberately showing us what we wanted to see while hiding their true capabilities, but the worst was yet to come. Emperor Kane activated the quantum communication system and sent a message to every alien government in the galaxy. When he appeared on screens across Council space, his expression was calm, but his eyes were cold as winter. Leaders of the Galactic Council, he began. You issued an ultimatum to humanity. You demanded that we surrender our colonies and accept your rule. You believed your superior numbers and ancient technology would force us to submit. Kane paused, letting his words sink in. You were wrong. Humanity does not submit. We prepare. For 50 years, while you saw us as primitive newcomers, we were studying your weaknesses and planning for this day. He activated a holographic display showing the positions of human forces throughout Council space. As you can see, we are not confined to our colonies. We are everywhere, in your home systems, near your shipyards, surrounding your most important worlds. We have been preparing for this war since the day we first met your council. The aliens watched in growing horror as the display showed the true extent of human preparations, weapon platforms hidden in asteroid fields, supply bases disguised as research stations, entire fleets concealed in regions of space the council thought were empty. You called us primitive, Kane continued, but we have technology you cannot understand. You called us weak, but we have ships your sensors cannot detect. You thought you could intimidate us with superior numbers, but you never bothered to count our real strength. Kane's expression hardened. The Terran Empire is not just defending our colonies. We are taking this war to your territory. Every council world, every council ship, every council station is now a target. Chancellor Vextai found his voice. Emperor Kane, surely we can negotiate. You had your chance to negotiate, Kane replied. Instead, you chose to threaten us. You attacked our colonies and killed our people. Now you face the consequences. Kane activated another display, this one showing energy readings from a distant star. System, I want you to observe what happens when you threaten the Terran Empire. The display showed a council fleet of 10,000 ships, positioned near a red giant star. The ships had been stationed there as a reserve force ready to support the main attack on human colonies. As the council leaders watched, something impossible happened. The star began to change color, shifting from red to orange to yellow. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the aliens had ever recorded. What are you doing? Chancellor Vextai demanded. Stellar engineering, Kane replied simply. We call it Project Prometheus. Your fleet is positioned near a star that we have been modifying for the past 6 months. The gravitational changes we have induced will cause a solar flare of unprecedented magnitude. The aliens watched in terror as the star erupted. A massive wave of energy and plasma swept through the system, instantly destroying every council ship in the area. 10,000 vessels and their crews simply ceased to exist. This is a demonstration, Kane continued. We can do this to any star, and Count Emperor Marcus Aurelius Kane stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, as it entered orbit around Xerion Prime, the former capital world of the Galactic Council. Through the massive viewports, he could see the ancient alien city sprawling across the planet's surface. Spires and domes that had stood for millennia, now dark and silent. Sir, Admiral Torres reported, the last Council administrative station has been evacuated. All alien personnel have been transported to neutral worlds as agreed. Kane nodded. The war had lasted only 6 months, but it felt like centuries. The Galactic Council, which had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, no longer existed. Any word from the species delegations? Kane asked. All 12 former Council species have requested individual meetings with Your Majesty, replied Director Park. They want to negotiate separate peace treaties. Kane smiled grimly. Just as he had predicted, the ancient alliance had collapsed the moment its military power was broken. When human fleets appeared in their home systems and human technology destroyed their reserves, the Council members had turned on each other with surprising speed. The Zephyrians blamed the hegemony for poor intelligence. The hegemony blamed the ethereal collective for weak strategy. The machine collective calculated that cooperation with humans offered better survival odds than continued resistance. Within weeks, the 12 species were negotiating individually rather than as a unified body. Schedule the meetings, Kane ordered, but make it clear that we negotiate from a position of strength. They come to us, not the other way around. Director Park made notes on her tablet. Sir, what about Chancellor Vexthai's request for a personal audience? Kane considered this. The former Chancellor had been captured when human forces took the Council's military headquarters. He was not a prisoner of war exactly, since he had technically surrendered rather than being defeated in battle, but he was certainly not free to leave. Bring him to the observation deck, Kane decided. I want him to see what his ultimatum accomplished. An hour later, Kane met with the former Chancellor on the Indomitable's observation deck. The massive chamber had transparent walls that provided a complete view of space around the ship. Vexthai stood with his hands bound, his blue feathers dull and lifeless. Through the transparent walls, they could see the human fleet arranged in perfect formation around Xerion Prime. Thousands of Terran warships hung in space like a constellation of metal and energy. Each ship represented technology that the Council had thought impossible for a young species to develop. Impressive, isn't it? Kane said conversationally. Vexthai's golden eyes reflected the starlight, but he said nothing. 6 months ago, you issued an ultimatum to humanity, Kane continued. You demanded that we abandon our colonies and accept your rule. You believed your superior numbers and ancient technology would force us to submit. The former Chancellor finally spoke, his musical voice now flat and defeated. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we first encountered your council, Kane replied honestly. From the moment your representatives made it clear that you saw us as inferior, beings who needed to be controlled, Kane activated a holographic display showing the timeline of human expansion. Every trade mission we sent to Council space included intelligence operatives. Every diplomatic meeting gathered information about your military capabilities. Every human tourist who visited your worlds was actually mapping strategic targets. Vexthai stared at the display. 50 years of deception. 50 years of preparation, Kane corrected. You made the mistake of believing your own propaganda. You thought humans were primitive because we were young. You thought we were weak because we didn't challenge you immediately. Kane gestured toward the human fleet outside. What you never understood is that humans learn quickly. We studied your technology and improved upon it. We analyzed your strategies and developed counters. We watched your military exercises and prepared surprises you never anticipated. The stellar engineering, Vexthai whispered. How is such a thing possible? Kane smiled. You've been using the same technology for thousands of years. You stopped innovating because you thought you had already achieved perfection. Meanwhile, humans never stopped asking, what if, and how can we do this better? The Emperor activated another display showing human industrial capacity. While you saw small colonial settlements, we were building the largest industrial infrastructure in galactic history. While you counted a few thousand human ships, we were constructing fleets in hidden shipyards. While you dismissed our technology as primitive, We were developing weapons that could penetrate your defenses. Vexathai looked older than his centuries of life. What happens now? Will you destroy our worlds as we plan to destroy yours? Kane was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars wheel slowly outside the observation deck. No, he said finally. Humanity is not interested in ruling through fear and oppression. That was your way, not ours. He turned to face the former chancellor directly. Each of your species will negotiate individually with the Terran Empire. Those who agree to peaceful coexistence will be allowed to maintain their independence. Those who choose cooperation will benefit from human technology and trade. Those who continue to threaten humanity or other species will face the consequences. And if we refuse to negotiate, Kane's expression hardened. Then you will discover what happens to species that threaten human colonies. The Korthak slaver empire learned that lesson when they attacked New Geneva. There is nothing left of their civilization but radioactive debris. Vextai shuddered. He had heard reports about the Korthak attack and humanity's response. The slavers had killed 2 million human colonists. In return, every Korthak world had been sterilized from orbit. The species had been completely extinct within a week. You could have ruled through cooperation from the beginning, Kane continued. Instead, you chose to rule through intimidation and ultimatums. You created the very conflict that destroyed your empire. Kane activated the ship's communication system. Throughout human space, his image appeared on screens in every colony, every ship, every station. Citizens of the Terran Empire, he began. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council demanded that we surrender our freedom and accept their rule. Today, that council no longer exists. Cheers erupted from human settlements across the galaxy. Colonists who had lived under the threat of alien invasion celebrated their victory. Soldiers who had fought against impossible odds felt pride in their achievement. The war's over, Kane announced. Humanity has won not just the right to exist, but the recognition that we are the dominant power in this galaxy. Kane paused, letting the magnitude of this statement sink in. But with power comes responsibility. We will not rule as the Council ruled, through fear and oppression. We will lead by example, showing other species that cooperation is better than conquest, that progress is better than stagnation. The Emperor's voice grew stronger. To the former Council species who seek peace, we offer friendship and trade. To those who would threaten human colonies or other peaceful species, we offer swift and complete destruction. The choice is yours. Kane ended the transmission and turned back to Vextai. Your species can have a place in the new galactic order, he said. But it will be as equals, not rulers. The age of alien supremacy is over. Vextai looked out at the human fleet one last time. Each ship was a reminder that his ancient civilization had been outmatched by a species barely 2 centuries old. How did we fail so completely? He asked. Kane considered the question seriously. You forgot that intelligence isn't measured in years of existence. You forgot that technology advances when minds are free to innovate. Most importantly, you forgot that strength comes not from controlling others but from earning their respect. The former chancellor bowed his head in defeat. Will history remember us at all? History will remember you as the empire that united the galaxy under a single rule for 3,000 years, Kane replied. But it will also remember you as the empire that fell because it could not adapt to change. Kane gestured toward the stars beyond Zirion Prime. The galaxy is changing, Chancellor. Species that embrace cooperation and innovation will thrive. Those that cling to old ways of dominance and control will follow your counsel into extinction. As guards escorted Vextai away to his comfortable detention quarters, Kane remained on the observation deck. Outside, the human fleet maintained its vigilant watch over the former council capital. Director Park joined him at the viewport. Sir, the Zephyrian delegation has arrived for their negotiation session. What are they offering? Complete surrender, sir. They want to become a protectorate of the Terran Empire. In exchange, they're offering access to their archives and technology databases. Kane nodded. Acceptable. Schedule similar offers to the other council species. Make it clear that cooperation will be rewarded and aggression will be punished. As the stars wheeled overhead, Kane reflected on the path that had brought humanity to this moment. 200 years ago, humans had been confined to a single world. Today they ruled the galaxy,